So about the middle of March, Dick Reed phoned me up and said, we're putting on a session on prospect generation and greenfield exploration at the GSN with a view to encouraging young people to get involved in the business. And could you give a talk? And the first thought that went through my mind was, I don't need any more competition. But after that, after I got through that, the second was, I'm really not the guy to do this. There are probably a half a dozen guys at this conference that are the real top guys in this business. And one of them should be doing this, but they won't. So you're stuck with me. But the good news is my partner John helped me out. So between the two of us, I hope we'll be able to give you some idea how the whole prospect generation business works. Sort of if you were approaching it from the outside with no knowledge at all, sort of an idiot's guide to prospect generation. This has nothing to do with about Silver Range and all our great properties and what we're up to. This is just geared towards those of you out in the audience who might be a young geologist, geophysicist, engineer, what have you, who's wondering, hey, what's this prospecting all about? And could I get involved? And can you actually make a buck at it? What gives? Okay. So here are the 3 top reasons why you should consider prospecting. It'll take your mind off being unemployed. Now, I know right now, if you can misdemeanor, show a pulse, and spell geology, you got a job. But these are really unusual times. Normally, there's lots of times between jobs. You're a tramp geologist or whatever. Great time to go prospecting. And you might get a better job because you're going to stand out from the pack when the exploration manager is sifting through resumes, and you're the guy who between jobs is out prospecting while the other guy's slinging coffee. You're going to get the job. And you actually might find something, which is what we're all in this business for anyway, right? Discovery. Okay, so let's discuss some general features of the game and how you might want to play it. And these are very much from our perspective, so take them for what they're worth and maybe just a grain of salt. Okay, so you're a prospector. What are you selling? A mine, right? Absolutely not. You are selling opportunities. All a mine is an opportunity that is so good that everybody decides to get together and dig a hole on it. You're selling opportunities. Okay, what kind of opportunities could you sell? Well, you could sell a mining property. You could sell just data. You could even sell just a concept. Something as simple as, hey, could there be gold in carbonaceous carbonates in northern Nevada? Or might there be diamonds in northern Canada? Something like that. Okay, so what are some ideas? Here's some ideas of opportunities you could sell. You could sell a hot commodity. Go chase lithium. Stake every playa in Nevada. There's a market for them. Area plays. Somebody makes a discovery. You figure out the stratigraphy and the structure. You stake some key claims along strike. Very much of interest. The hot target model. 20 years ago, everybody suddenly rediscovered epithermal deposits. Well, maybe 30 years ago. And all of a sudden, if you went out and staked one, you could sell it. A good story involving people always sells, as long as there's a rock and geology to back it up. But they sell. You might look at an overlooked prospect, something that hasn't been looked at for, say, 50 or 100 years. My favorite recent one would be New Range at Pamlico. And finally, the left field play, which is sort of one of those concept ideas. Okay, to whom are you going to sell these opportunities? Well, I think there's 4 groups of people you might want to look at. First, there's the exploration manager, tasked by the company to find projects that fit the corporate plan. What is she interested in? She'd like to climb the ladder, maybe get a bonus or 2 on the way. What's she worried about? Not getting fired for making dumb bets or doing nothing at all. How about promoters? Promoters chase the markets. The market says something sexy. They get out in front of it, find it, and sell it. They exist to raise money. In fact, promoters love to sit around, brag how much money they've raised. They raise a lot, keep some for themselves, and see if they can generate a winning project. What are they worried about? Generating a losing project or a bunch of them. Project geologist, your buddy who's got a great job working for a big mining company with benefits, job security. They got it made in the shade. What might they be interested in? Well, they might like a project that their exploration manager might like. Why? Because they might like to become the exploration manager. What are they worried about? Getting fired. When the inevitable layoffs happen, they don't want to be the guy kicked out of the lifeboat. If they're bringing projects to their project manager, better chance they're going to be in the lifeboat. Money people. Okay. Things you need to understand about the whole mining business and whatever is that You can't list a public company on a stupid idea, but you can always list it on a mining property as long as it's got a 43-101. So there's a brisk market among money folk for mining projects that will justify a public company listing. Once the company's listed, they'll take it and do something crazy like NFT or pot or crypto or what have you, okay? But to get on the market, they need a mining property. They make their money handling other people's money, and what worries them is losing other people's money or putting it in a spin cycle so it generates no return. But there's a excuse me, they are looking for mining properties to list companies on. Okay, you're going to play the game. What are the odds? Let's look at the odds for career success, exploration, and sales. The odds of you becoming a multi-million-dollar a year prospector with a beautiful home on Mount Rose Highway are about the same as a garage band becoming Led Zeppelin. Long. However, as in music, there are many happy way stations along this road. It's a great side hustle. Prospecting is a great side hustle if you've got a job and are between jobs. It can be a very good way to augment a consulting practice, for example. So you don't have to get to the top to enjoy some success in this line of work. Okay, what about the expiration odds? Now, we've all seen stuff like this where the odds of finding a mine are 1 in 1,000. And if that's the game, boy, I don't want to play it. But keep in mind this little bit of promoter wisdom. You are selling opportunities, and there are lots more opportunities than mines. Where are these opportunities coming from? This is the LASSONDE curve invented by Pierre Lassonde, who also invented Franco-Nevada, and it shows the theoretical progression of a discovery from the point of I found the rock to the mines in production. And it shows how the value increases and waxes and wanes over the cycle. You'll notice there's a big run up during the exploration phase before the big discovery is made. That's where you live as a prospector. And the good news is there are many more opportunities than this simple curve would indicate, because the real LASSONDE curve is bumpy with lots of little troughs where you can jump in and pick up a prospect that somebody dropped, capture some value advancing it, and who knows, maybe take it all the way to the top. The thing you need to realize, however, about this business is quite cyclical. There are long-term and short-term cycles. The short-term cycle is annual. Starts in January, runs up to PDAC in Toronto, which happens in early March. Lots of sales activity. Then it kind of waxes and wanes, especially can be slow in the summer when people are in the field or on their yacht or playing golf. Picks up again in the fall. That's the little bumps you see in this curve. Of more concern are the long-term bumps. And these are caused by secular events that are outside of our control. Bad news is I think we're going into a slump right now, but hey, that's a matter for discussion elsewhere. What are the sales odds? Let's look at a continuum of sales careers, starting with the guy who sells you water or toner at your office, going all the way to the art dealer in New York. Where does the prospector fit on this hierarchy of sales? Well, I would posit to you they fit somewhere here in the realm of finance. There's a lot of value to be captured in selling a good prospect for the salesman. However, it takes a lot of time, sometimes years, and it requires a more skill than you'd think. It's not like selling Beanie Babies. And selling is the path to glory. So let's just discuss that. Why do people hate selling? Selling holds a mirror up to them, and it asks them a question. What are you prepared to do to make the sale? And that makes people very uncomfortable. Some of them hide under their desk, say, I can't sell, I never could sell. How can I couldn't possibly sell anything. How did they get a job? You're always selling. You have to learn to get over this hump. If you can't, you'll never make it in prospecting. Can you take a punch? There are going to be an awful lot of no's before you're going to get a yes. I would posit to you as a prospector starting out, you might have to make 200 calls or contacts before you sell your first claims. If you can't take no, you'll never get to yes. Good news is you can get better at the game and improve your odds by learning. You'll learn to get along with everybody in kindergarten. You can learn to do sales. Sales in prospecting involves trust. You have to build trust with the people you're dealing with. It's very, very important. So you got to give a bit to get a bit. And you ever wondered, network effects are really important. You ever wondered why you go to a conference and you find, why are successful old prospectors all old? Is because it takes years to develop, build, and cultivate a rich network of contacts into which you can sell your prospects. So network effects are really important in sales. Okay, so let's look how it works from our perspective. What do you need? Well, first you need your opportunity, and then you need to flesh it out with some data. Good news is it's all available on the internet, so you can collect it all and organize it easily. I would posit to you as a new prospector heading out, when you're trying to sell a prospect, you need the rock, the piece of nice looking rock you can put on the guy's desk and say, look, there's lots more of this out there. Okay, it's a trust building mechanism. Finally, you need a minimum ground position. I would suggest to you, if you're looking for a prospect in Nevada, you probably want to start with about 4 claims, maybe a little more, but you can get, remember, claims cost money, and you don't go crazy. If you never staked before, this publication is a great and still very valid guide. Now, final thing you might need to do is expiration. Ideally not, because remember, profit equals sales minus expenses, and expiration is an expense. But let's see what works. Prospecting doesn't cost much, has great benefit. I would say it's the most cost-effective thing you could do, followed by geologic mapping and soil sampling. If you got a strong back, I'd do some trenching. I think trenching can really help. Once we get past that, you're getting into more expensive stuff like geophysics. And if I were an independent private prospector, I would really never consider drilling. But there you go. Okay, so you got your opportunity. You got your data. You got your rock. Maybe you did a little exploration. You're ready to go. How are you going to package this thing and market it? Well, you need some basic marketing materials. Let's start with a website. Go talk to GoDaddy or your later internet supplier. Learn to program in HTML. Kids can do it. We can do it. You need a brochure. I would suggest 4 pages. Fanful's nice. And it should have lots of pictures and not a lot of text. It's not a master's thesis. It sells the sizzle, not the steak. Get the word out there. It has to be a sales document, not a technical document. And I would suggest you could have your very own video presentation. I'm doing one right here with PowerPoint. You too could do the same with no ums, no ahs, and no, geez, I forgot that. Okay? You can get it perfect. You need your data. It should be as complete as possible, realizing you may only be able to use public data, and it should be very well organized. More about that later. Finally, you need a report that works. Why do you need that? Well, half of the world learns by listening, and the other half learns by reading. You've got to get to that other half of the world, and you need a report that really works. So what does that look like? It looks like an upside-down 43-101 report. It starts with the conclusion, drill the hole here, or pick up this great project. Why? Then is the supporting data. At the back end of the report is the location and access and the fauna and the temperatures and all that other stuff that's got to go in there, okay? The oil industry has this down to a science. You could too. It's called a target report. Okay, you're ready. Let's get the word out. Now, how are we going to sell this? The first thing you need to know is that selling prospects about this is that people that are going to buy a prospect are not going to telegraph it. They're going to keep their cards close to their chest. They're only going to talk to people they trust. They're not going to be out there making a big deal about it, okay? So it's very difficult to know and learn who's ready to buy. Cold calling doesn't work. Hi, Bob. My name's Joe, and I've got a gold property in Nevada. Would you like to buy it? Well, Joe, I've never met you before, and the answer is no. Okay, it's as simple as that. The other thing that doesn't work is email blasts or mailouts, okay? They're even more irritating maybe than a cold call. At least somebody had the courage to phone me with a cold call, but sending me emails that go into my spam box. What can work is a news release, because if a person's actively looking for a mining property, they're cruising for news releases. And you as an independent prospector can put out a news release. The most important thing is to build and cultivate a network of contacts into which you can sell your projects, people you deal with in one form or another. Now, here's a picture of our network, for example, and what we found in it is that there are key people that have many more contacts than others. They're sort of like the super spreader that showed up at the wedding and gave everybody COVID, okay? That's a bad example, but nonetheless, in a network, there are key people that know everybody else. You need to find out who they are. Those are you can get a lot more leverage talking to those people than you can to other people that are basically dead ends. Okay, what's your project worth? Here's data. This is the total value of gold projects in Nevada for the last 3 years, what the total deal would be worth, and I've broken it out by deal size. The median's about 500 grand, and about a quarter of them are not much more than 200 or less than 200 grand. I would suggest to you as a starting out prospector, you're going to have a tough time selling stuff at more than 200,000 to 300,000. And the reason for that is that the stuff you see on the right are more advanced deals that people have been hanging on to for years. So unless Barrick lets 4 Mile go and you stake it, or you make a really crazy deal with somebody, you're probably doing the lower end deals. You know, so don't get stars in your eyes. How's it work? Let's look at the process. Starts with an introduction. Could be out here on the GSN floor. And then the approach. Hey, Bob, met you last week at GSN. You said you might be looking at many, but a project, gold projects in Nevada. Would you like to look at one? Bob says yes. That's when your video presentation is really helpful. You can just send it to him. Bob looks at it. He likes it. Okay, next step is you sign a confidentiality agreement, or a CA. That's to protect you and your partner in the event things go south. And you deliver that well-organized digital data we were talking about. Okay, Bob looks at the data. He really likes it. You enter negotiations, from the Latin word lot leisure. This is the hard part of the whole deal. But the good news is if you get this far, you got a much greater chance of success at any point lower down. Okay, negotiations successful. You hammer out a deal, and then you sign it. But you're not done. Make sure you get paid. Now, I can tell you that things don't always follow the stately pattern. Some hard-nosed exploration managers will immediately jump into almost negotiations. What do you want for your property? Because they don't want to waste their time dealing with a guy who wants $1 million check up front. They can't afford it. It's not going to happen. So you'll run into people like that. The other opposite end are money people. They can be really annoying. They will quickly move all the way to the negotiations phase once they've decided your project is good enough, and they'll even put a deal together, and they'll put it right in front of you, and then they'll say, and they won't sign it. They'll say, we'll get back to you, and they'll put that aside, and they'll go and get 3 or 4 others, and then pick which one they like. Okay, it can be very annoying. So keep that in mind with money people, because the property is just a token to get on the subway. Okay. So bottom line is be prepared to negotiate in a different pattern than what you would like to, but follow your partner's lead. Don't step on his toes. This takes time. If you're really, really, really lucky, it might take a few weeks. More likely, several months. Could take years. Just saying. Common failure points, often the CA delivered data phase. I would say there are a lot of companies that go out there and harvest data from you, and then that's where it ends. There might be a quarter of those that sign CAs and take your data, and you don't hear back from them. And the reason you don't is that your data is so badly organized that they just can't sort it out, and they give up. I mean, they got other things to do. So that's a point to watch. Okay, making deals. I could do a whole course on this. I'm not. Key thing is study deals. Profit from other people's experience. If you're just starting out and you're getting in a deal, get a mentor, or get screwed. There are some really unscrupulous people out there. Not a lot of them, but enough of them. And if you don't know what you're doing and you go into deal making, you could end up selling the cow for a bag of beans. In any deal, keep upside. If the whole world discovers that your opportunity is where they should all get together and dig a great big hole, make a lot of money, make sure you have some upside, or a royalty, a success fee, some other mechanism for capturing value in the case the thing takes off. If you don't fall in love with any of your properties. If it's not an opportunity, it ain't for sale, and you shouldn't try and sell it. Don't spend too much money on your property. You can do some simple math. Your first deal might be only 300 grand. You're only going to see a third of that because that's the way deals go. You might take 3 properties to sell 1, so that means you shouldn't spend more than $33,333.33 on any one prospect. Okay, use that kind of rationing. Don't think the property will sell itself. It absolutely won't. If you aren't pushing it, it's probably going rotten on your balance sheet. And don't give up. This is a business that requires a lot of persistence. There's a lot of disappointments on the road to the top, but it's really worth it. And the reason we would really like to encourage you to do this is that the mining industry has absolutely no future without your opportunities. So thank you very much.